Okay, last but not least, we have Kristen Kao from the Department of Political Science. And her talk is entitled, The Parliamentary Puzzle, Why Vote in an Autocracy?
Have you ever wondered how, in this day and age, dictators hold on to their power? In the not-so-distant past, it was much easier for authoritarians to subdue their populations using outright repression or violence. But for today's ruling dictators, well, they have to contend with issues they never had to before. Namely, the fact that we live in a human rights conscious and technologically interconnected world. My first experience with dictatorships came 8 years ago when I won a Fulbright scholarship to study Arabic in Egypt. It wasn't until I was on the plane that I really started to freak out. How would I cope in a world without freedom? But once I arrived in Cairo, I heard a topic of conversation I never expected. Here I was in a region infamous for its lack of democracy, yet all around me were people talking about their elected president and parliament. Elected, I thought, why on earth would a dictator offer his people the opportunity to participate in the democratic act of voting? To me, elections in a dictatorship were a complete oxymoron, which is probably what sparked my curiosity and led me to the field of political science. Beyond Egypt, the phenomenon of electoral authoritarianism is actually rather common. So much so that of the 95 dictators in power across the globe, more than 70% of them hold elections. Even more remarkable is that throughout history, dictators that hold elections typically hold onto power 2 to 3 times longer than those who don't. For my dissertation research, I chose Jordan because, unlike in many other dictatorships, the mukhabarat, or secret service, won't hunt you down for conducting political research there. But I quickly realized that just because political research is permitted doesn't mean that gaining access to sensitive information is easy. For example, when I finally managed to obtain a meeting with the head of elections, he abruptly told me, "In the interest of national security, we burn all election results." I wish I could say that this encounter was the exception, but it felt like everywhere I turned, I got the runaround. That is, until I realized that access to sensitive information is all about who you know. So I spent the next year cultivating relationships, and it was through one of these connections that I was finally able to obtain the election results from 1989 to 2013. One interesting fact I gleaned from these results is that the turnout rate in elections in Jordan are similar to those here in the US, which begs the question, why do so many voters and community elites spend valuable time, energy, and money on participating in undemocratic elections? The answer lies in the fact that, as much as they might like to, autocrats can't really rule a country all alone. Even dictators want to satisfy the wishes of their subjects to some degree because, at least appearing to care, discourages potential opposition to their power. So they use their access to the vast resources of the state to distribute benefits, encouraging participation in elections. But contrary to popular belief, it's not so easy for a leader to buy public support, even for a dictator. In large part because the absence of a free media makes it difficult for dictators to know what's going on at the local level. How can the dictator know that officials aren't being lazy or corrupt, that they are actually delivering services to their communities? This is exactly where elections come into play. Elites covet a seat in parliament because it comes with access to lucrative business deals, increased prestige, and a lifelong pension. Competitive elections for these seats make it worth the elite's time to figure out what voters actually want. But elections are a risky business. Local leaders are given a seat in parliament, bringing them all together, which could increase the chance they challenge the ruler. What's to stop these elected elites from banding together to oust the dictator? In a word, tribalism, which is an ethnic identity based on real or imagined blood relations. I learned that dictators use elections to exploit ethnic and social divides within the population. One way they do this is by including two prominent tribes in a single district, instigating competition between them for a seat in parliament. A nationwide survey I ran last year reveals that 77% of Jordanians identify with a tribe. In elections, tribes often behave like small parties. They even hold primaries to select a candidate, much in the same way that political parties do here in the US. Shockingly, 44% of Jordanians claim to have had a member of their tribe elected to parliament. Can you imagine if that many of us had a member of our family elected to Congress? Elections favoring tribes allow the dictator to rely on the idea that family takes care of family, ensuring that the state resources he provides actually reach the grassroots. But I needed to find empirical evidence to back up my theory. So I had a friend arrange a meeting with his tribe's parliamentarian. Once in his office, I boldly told him, "You know, we Westerners don't really believe that you do much of anything for your voters." To prove me wrong, he proudly brought out folder after folder, brimming with letters he wrote to the regime asking for favors on behalf of his voters. Jackpot. Over the next year, I collected more than 1,000 of these letters from a variety of parliamentarians on topics ranging from getting a son a job to freeing a tribal member from jail. So how do authoritarian elections, parliamentarians, and tribes all tie together? Elections offer the dictator a reliable system for purchasing the loyalty of voters and elites. Parliamentarians are kept busy writing letters on behalf of their family members instead of creating legislation to help the nation as a whole, as they would in a democracy. And finally, ethnic groups in the form of tribes are pitted against each other in the fight for state resources, making it almost impossible that they could ever unite and challenge the dictator. The result is an undemocratic system in which the general population lacks basic civil rights and personal freedoms. We, here in the US, spend billions of taxpayer dollars every year on democracy promotion in countries around the world. Yet our programs rarely yield desired results. What's even more ironic is that an average of 86% of Middle Easterners agree that democracy is the best system of government. This statistic suggests that we still have a lot to learn about spreading democracy. I'm a strong believer that every person is deserving of human rights, dignity, and freedom. When I look into the eyes of the many friends I have living under dictatorship, I see fear where there should be hope for the future. Democracy is the only system I know of that gives its citizens the opportunity to pursue their goals and accomplish their dreams. And so, I'm working hard to figure out ways that democracy promotion can really start making a difference and offer the unfree the liberty to take control of their destinies.